Se não tivesse seu direito à liberdade de expressão respeitado? Se seus dados particulares fossem divulgados sem autorização? Ou se você tivesse sua navegação filtrada por causa de interesses comerciais? A liberdade de expressão, a privacidade e a neutralidade da rede são fundamentais para a internet. E esses são apenas alguns dos 10 princípios formulados pelo Comitê Gestor da Internet no Brasil. O CGI.br promove há mais de 20 anos a internet no país. Graças a ele, você tem constante inovação, segurança e diretrizes para o desenvolvimento da internet. Isso tudo é feito de forma colaborativa, transparente e democrática. O comitê é formado por representantes de todos os setores da sociedade. Assim, as decisões são tomadas por meio do diálogo, com a participação de todos os membros até que um consenso seja alcançado. Por esses e outros fatores, o modelo brasileiro de governança se tornou referência.
The Brazilian governance has been created by CGI.br, a better internet in the country.
Quando você registra um
When
domínio,
you register a domain.br, you are collaborating to improve internet in the country. Each domain which uses .br is registered by NIC.br, which is a center for information and coordination of the .br. In addition to names and domains, it invests in treating safety incidents, technology projects in the different networks, and processes that addresses indicators about the use of technology and communication. We have local IXBR and projects that will collaborate to the global web development and much more. All of that because the NIC.br is a private civil entity without profits, which is responsible for a safety, stable, and reliable domain network. What you pay for your domain in the development of infrastructure, adding benefits to everyone who uses internet in Brazil. The whole innovation, state-of-art technology, safety, infrastructure is just possible because you have a domain.br, NIC.br, always in search of the best to our internet. Internet offers a number of opportunities to children and adolescents with the new digital technologies such as virtual reality and metaverses. The sky is the limit. You may learn, play, and connect to your friends and to talk online. But at the time that the digital world is changing rapidly, there are a number of risks to be considered to guarantee that you have a safe online and fun experience. We want a safer net and better to our future, where everyone may benefit from all opportunities. Every February, 1 million of people all over the country, they celebrate the Safernet Day. Not today, but every single day, we want to inspire people to work together to design a better internet to everyone, where you feel protected, empowered, and respected, always, wherever you are online, and not letting anyone behind. Regardless of where you are or who you are, you may add positive changes to the internet. What are you waiting for? Join us at the Safer Internet Day, and together let's celebrate where we may design a better internet to everyone. Know furthermore how to participate at the Safernet Internet Day. Better internet for kids.
Bom dia!
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. A wonderful day to all of you. You are mostly welcome to our second event today, that is the Brazilian edition for the Safer Day Internet. We had a very enriching day yesterday, and I'm sure we are going to repeat that today. This event is being organized by Safernet Brasil with the co-realization of Internet Brazil and NIC.br and CGI.br with a number of sponsors: Google, YouTube, TikTok, and Meta. And let me also highlight the institutional support given by the federal government, the court, federal police, Minister of Justice and Public Security, Federal Public Ministry, the National Committee of the Public Ministry, National Agency of Telecommunications, Brazilian Association of Internet, Abranet, Brazilian Federation of Banks, the FEBRABAN, the Brazilian Coalition for the End of Violence with Children and Adolescents, Safe Online, the UN funds to the infancy, UNICEF, and the government of the UK, Foundation Roberto Marinho, Futura, Rede Globo, and WAL are also supporting from the press side. And as we all might know, a Safer Internet Day takes place simultaneously around 180 countries with the presence of different sectors of our society, everyone together to promote a positive use of internet. And there are a number of activities taking place actively. Since yesterday, we had a number of registered activities in our .br, where there were over 100 decentralized activities taking place until the end of February, all over, almost all over the state, 15 states and 150 cities. We would like to thank you so much, all the schools which are celebrating all these activities and which are responsible for this overall movement. And a big round of applause, because that is a record. We are outstanding in relation to previous editions. You know that the Redemption Christ in Rio de Janeiro, which is this wonderful monument, has been colored and lighted with our visual identity of Internet Safer Day. This is an action conducted by the church together with the Federal Public Ministry and Brazil Safernet. This action is taking place for the past 7 years, and we would love to thank you so much, all the participants who are here on site at the plenary, as well as those who had joined us remotely. And we wish you all a very pleasant meeting and fruitful. And please use the event hashtags. Our official event hashtags are so important to trigger and our event all over. Hashtag SEED 2026 and hashtag Dia da Internet Segura. I count on you. Our panels are being broadcasted by the channels NIC.br, by Safernet, at the YouTube channel Safernet. And to officially open our second day activities, we are honored to invite the representatives of this hub so they may share their initial opening remarks. So a big round of applause to our initial speakers, Raquel Gatto, who is manager of the legal committee. She's an advisor for NIC.br from the legal perspective. I also like to invite Juliano Capi, who is a manager of public policies for CGI.br. Welcome, Juliano. And Bianca Orrico from Safernet. She is an advisor of CONANDA, who is a national committee for advocacy of children and adolescents, and also she's responsible for the protection of children and adolescents within the digital setting. Let's start with Bianca for her opening welcoming remarks. Hello, everyone. Good morning. Welcome. It is a great joy to be here today at this initial opening session with Rachel and Juliano. I'd like to thank the opportunity, and I would like to reinsure our commitment at Conanda. Conanda has a trajectory following all the transformations that take place at children's and adolescents' experience online, and our commitment is reinforced by the solutions of the 245 and 257 resolution within a perspective to guarantee the rights for the statute of children and adolescents in their use in the digital environment, where we will effectively guarantee and protect children and adolescents whenever they are navigated into the web. I'm here representing Conanda and the Intersectorial Committee together with Ricardo, which is very active in the Justice Ministry, Public Security, Communications Secretary, National Secretary for the Protection of Children and Adolescents, where we design a national policy for the use of digital environment for children and adolescents. We want to hear from the civil society companies. Ricardo will talk more about the age assurance, and this is a very important moment that you have to address. And in our committee, we are working to strengthen our policy within this digital committee. And to close, let me reinforce that Conanda is committed to place children and adolescents within the core decisions, where we'll be able to guarantee their experiences being there online or also offline. I will hand over to Rachel and have a pleasant event. Thank you, Bianca. I am also very honored to be part of this panel with Juliana and Bianca. This is an amazing event. As co-organizers, let's not impair the agenda, and I'll try to be as brief as possible. Let me start by congratulating 20 years, of Safernet. Safernet is an institution that is very active for so long, and I was honored to follow all their trajectory in the complexity of the topics that they address. And ultimately, they want to protect and be active within the children and adolescent community. So let me greet Safernet once again for their 20 years and long life for another 20, 30, 40 years until we will no longer be able to follow, but it will be active. And moreover, the Safe Internet Day is a global event, not just in Brazil, but in other countries. And here in Brazil, also with the Redemption Christ being lighted, and more recently, we have the approval of ECA Digital, which was very important in this topic. And it's very important to bring that to the society, but that's just the beginning. We have the implementation of ECA Digital. We're still in the implementation of technologies. That is a dynamic movement that we have to share. And events like Safe Internet, they are very valuable because they address different sites and perspectives. I followed yesterday's event, partly online and partly on site, and I see that debates, they show the reality and how may we implement that technically, such as a content block, does that work or not? And we all acknowledge that problems are there and they have to be solved. But solutions, they are not unique to all problems. We don't have one size fits all to all solutions. And the importance to see case by case and to lean over each one of the situations in search of those which are really effective, that is highly valuable. And that's exactly what we expect as a result of today's discussion, as well as the importance of users' education. You received lots of materials developed here within NIC.br, Cert.br, and all the materials that we distributed for all of you. And I have a disclose. We have the data for the disposal of children and adolescents, which is co-organized with Safernet. That will be in October 29th and 30th of October, as October is the month that we celebrate Children's Day on October 12th. That will be at the Intercontinental Hotel, same place as yesterday. So please write down the dates, and I hope to see you all there. Thank you. I'm so glad to be here today, even though I have to replace Kelly, who unfortunately couldn't make today. Thanks for Safernet for the invitation. And let me congratulate Safernet publicly for those amazing and extraordinary 20 years of activities. Today, we have in the premises the coordinator of CGIBR and the Minister of Technology and Science, Renata Miele. Talking to Thiago, who asked me to talk about the importance of data measurement. CGI has a contribution for this process of data checking, and I think it's very important that we address the importance and to raise awareness about the consultations that we participate at, the hearing, public hearing. We have 25 million of children and adolescents using internet daily, where 83% they have a profile at the social media. Despite the age, the minimum age is 13 years, where the range between 9 and 10 years, 60%, and in the range of 11 to 12 years, they represent 70%. And the Bill of Rights of Children and Adolescents, they have to adopt reliable drivers for the age assurance. Article 10 establishes that they will promote a protective environment for the rights of children and adolescents, but simultaneously they will offer protection to the experiences. allowing autonomy. That's why CGI believes that to set 7 principles, 7 recommendations. And the first recommendation talks about proportionality, the assurance conditions they have to respect, they have to fit the proportionality and the justification for that implementation. Recommendation number 2 talks about privacy and data protection, where age assurance, they should respect personal data protection, privacy by design and by default, minimizing data and information. The third recommendation, inclusion and non-discrimination, defines that age assurance should be accessible, inclusive, considering territorial, socio-economic diversity in Brazil. 4 technical recommendations. Data assurance methodologies, they should take into account high technical standards, considering resilience to leakage, frauds, attacks. And number 5 is the principle of non-fragmentation. Such a principle establishes that the mechanisms of age assurance should preserve the global open architecture of the Internet, minimizing the fragmentations of risks and the regulatory technical principles. The principle 6 allows interoperability aligned to international practices to avoid that the Brazilian ecosystem will raise a dependency to proprietary technologies, which will be provided by a restricted number of economic players, economic agents. And finally, recommendation number 7, transparency and stability, which may be auditable, and to audit age assurance to ensure the proper use of Internet and also ability to check that externally. With that, I reinforce the huge challenge that age assurance is proposed in Brazil from economic, cultural standpoint, and also from a technical perspective. With that, I close my initial words, and I am so happy to be here, and congratulations, Safernet, for your 20 years, and also for this amazing event. Thank you.
Muito obrigada, Bianca, Raquel, Juliano, por
essa fala. Thank you, Bianca, Raquel, Juliano. Let's take a picture.
Co-realizadores desse evento, lembrando que para o bom andamento dos trabalhos desse segundo dia,
for our second day of activities, I would like to ask you to have your mobile phones on silent mode. Today, we are going to have with us a number of specialists to talk about the key points of the Digital Bill of Rights of Children and Adolescents, or as we call it in Portuguese, ECA, Digital ECA. I would like to invite Ricardo de Lins and Horta, our keynote speaker. He's Director of Security and Risk Prevention, and he works for the Ministry of Public Defense. He is going to present the results of the public hearing and public consultation of the federal government about age checking, which is a priority topic. A big round of applause to Ricardo, who is going to be our keynote speaker. Thank you very much for being here with us. You have the floor.
Bom dia a todos e todas. A gente muito feliz de estar aqui hoje. Queria primeiro
I'm very glad to be here. I would like to start by thanking Safernet, celebrating 20 years of excellent service and very hard work in protecting childhood and adolescents. When we started talking about this event last year, myself and Ricardo Tavares, CEO of Safernet, we knew that age checking should stand out in this event. There are a number of requests: product design, transparency, reporting crimes and offenses to the authorities, a very detailed regulation of all parental supervision mechanisms, but age checking is the most impactful one. Companies that launch products, and on the other side, users. So what is age checking? It is the principle that digital services had to be aware of who is on the other side of the screen. This is age checking after all. A lot has been said about the need of internet being open and accessible, and this is a no-brainer. We all agree on it. But we have thought about internet as adults, two adults. When internet was created, it was thought by adults to adults. I was a teenager when it was launched, and nobody thought about that. But the risk at that time was much smaller and more localized than today. Today, we have large platforms which are the mediators, the intermediate of everything we do: classroom, purchase, e-commerce. So internet pervades all our lives, and also children and adolescents, 1/3 of all users of internet. The good news is, now there are some technology solutions that didn't exist in the 80s, without really without impacting privacy, in other words, something that's very dear to our heart. We do not want an internet monitoring what people are doing. And since the very beginning of this discussion, we've always emphasized age verification through the lights of privacy. Our ANPD, the agency, was not even assigned as really the main authority, but we have always understood that age verification would only make sense if we thought about the privacy of users. Well, this is not something unheard of or being just created by us in Brazil. No, it's not. In November 2024, when it was first proposed, I was part of the mission for the first ministerial conference for the end of violence against children. That was November 24. We made two propositions, one for digital environment and the second one thinking about minimum standards for age verification. 9 months before our digital Bill of Rights be approved. Then I joined my current office, and I would like to congratulate Lilian Silva, who was the leader up to some days. We have always taken very seriously the priority of children and adolescents, and we knew that this would be one of the most important aspects concerning digital security. In April 2025, our Bill of Rights was approved in the Senate, and we launched a strategy to protect children and adolescents, so including modernization of the specific classification of apps, and think about the minimum standards for age verification. We also created two consultative or committees, and we were holding bilateral meetings with associations, civil society, companies, partners, specialists, to understand how we could have it all implemented. So months even before the Bill of Rights was approved. So these were two key points for protecting children and adolescents in the digital world. When it was finally passed in September 25, when we opened for public consultation, we already had a pre-map based on existing solutions of where the direction should be. So the result of the public consultation is it stemmed, so to speak, of the work of this committee. We have adopted different methodologies, and it impacts different business models. We've always known that there wouldn't be a silver bullet. One single solution, one single method would never do the trick. So we really have been detailing it right from the beginning. I have two young kids, and since October, we have had more than 60 meetings with everyone that asked for a meeting to join us. I was here in October last year. We had a highly fruitful workshop. There's going to be another one soon. I would say that this has been constantly negotiated with all different players and stakeholders. Some of our assumptions in the federal government of Brazil. First, age verification is here to stay. I know there are some critics. It's not going to work, there are problems, it's going to put an end to internet as we know it. But the Supreme Court in the US in June last year decided that the First Amendment, which protects freedom of speech and the conception of freedom of speech in the US is very broad, as we all know it. Sorry, Gary, it's too broad. Is there really hate speech? Yeah, of course. Anyway, they decided, the Supreme Court in the US, that age verification to control access to pornography is part of the Constitution. This is important, not because I admire, look up to the US, but rather because the main companies operating in Brazil are based in the US. And even though there are state laws and there are different laws in different regions, more than half of the US states are already adopting age verification. Same in Europe. In the UK, they are dealing with access to pornography by children and adolescents since mid-year last year. And you've been reading since December 10th in Brazil, when Australia decided to forbid social media to children, and other countries are promising to do the same. Spain, Malaysia, and other European countries. We've been observing it as a given. Age verification is here to stay. It's going to be all over, but how is it going to be? How can we get to this new reality, and how can we get adapted to it from the technology perspective to have solutions that really work for the Brazilian reality? Even countries that are forbidden social media to children, which is not what we advocate in Brazil, to implement anything, we need age verification. We really have to understand who's on the other side of the screen. These technological solutions exist. There are different levels of accuracy, different purposes, but there is a very broad set of solutions already available in the market, including in Brazil, as you are going to hear today in the afternoon. Tiago Tavares has invited Gary and Yazadara to speak after me, because they are going to talk about public and private sector and confirm that we can do it. There are options. I think that this is really important to discuss. We've checked age verification, not because we think that it would deal with all the problems of internet security. Of course not. Juliano has read the Article 10 of Digital ECA in Brazil. because it describes what it requires. It means adapting experience to different age ranges. So we are not preventing freedom. We are just adapting the experience to the right age range. If you have children or if you interact with children to some extent, you know that what you do with a 5-year-old is going to be different with what you do with a 14-year-old in terms of fun or entertainment. The classroom experience is different from first graders to 10th graders. Still, we were doing the same throughout the internet. We needed horrible cases of violence against kids to understand what an absurd we had of not adapting the internet to the specific age range. According to the principle of progressive autonomy, we need safe environments according to age range. And what have we observed during the COVID era or recently? Sometimes couples get a divorce and they end up giving a cell phone to the kid to know where the kid is. But through it, there might be adults reaching out for the child, or the child may access inappropriate websites. Is it acceptable? Not at all. 8 or 9-year-olds having a mobile phone because the families needed some time for them. So they thought that the mobile phone would do the magic, right? This is what has led to the approval of our digital ECA. It was a multi-stakeholder discussion. Somebody call it FELCA law, which is a specific episode that happened in Brazil. I think we should not call it that way, but rather digital ECA. When we realize we have to do something, we can really put all the pieces in the puzzle. This is the Swiss cheese model common in healthcare and in the airline industry, because you have different layers with different levels of importance. For many years in Brazil, it used to say that families or family mediation would be ultimately responsible for taking care of children online. There are some products which are designed to lead to excessive use, or products that are designed for you to talk with unknown adults. And, well, how could have the family seen that coming? When I took over my office, I always thought that it was unacceptable to blame it on the family. It's one layer of protection, of course. Yes, there might be a problem. Maybe the family cannot deal with it alone, but we need additional layers. Responsibility of the authorities. We've seen some media education initiatives yesterday, Safernet being absolutely fantastic in it. Companies have to know they are responsible for that. And even before any digital Bureau of Rights, but we have the Consumers Defense Code, which is also applicable to the digital world. There is corporate responsibility involved. There are some initiatives adopted by the industry. A number of providers talked about that, design security, so we can have parental control, number of hours of access, etc. There might be products, for example, that do not offer night activity. These are different layers. We also have that policy of classification of according to age range. And we have that in place for a long time. Social media today are classified as not recommended before the age of 14, 16, and 18. And this is available in your app store. We just changed to include some interactive functionalities that would increase the risk. Just thinking about expanded risk matrix for digital services. Companies have to actively remove content, especially if it's illegal. If material of abuse or violence. This is one more layer of protection. You are somewhat, let's say, cleaning, right, the environment. And now we are going to have some additional layers of inspection. This is what our agency is doing. And finally, we have the police, right? The police forces. There has been a recent training, and the police force is absolutely essential as one more layer of protection. As I'm going to talk about age verification, I do not want to give you the misperception that we are just focusing on age verification. No, it's one more layer. Everybody thought it would be okay to buy beer and say, yes, I'm more than 18. Yes. We are absolutely sure that this is what our digital Bill of Rights has forbidden, self-declaration of age range. This is a no-brainer. As of March 17, this is going to change in the Brazilian legislation and reality. I don't know if you've already seen the code, the report, which is the result of the work of Luciano Dain, who is our consultant in the process, and it also involves the work of a number of people from our secretary. It's the report of the public consultation, and it was published last week on Tuesday. There are a number of other important documents that can guide the discussion, especially those who are coming into the discussion. Technology Radar number 4 of ANPD, it's on age verification. If you want to understand the available methods, limitation, and problems, this is a very useful guide.
Disponível publicamente. E aí algumas das preocupações que a Miriam, por exemplo, do CERT, por exemplo, colocou aqui ontem na fala dela.
Points that Miriam from CERT mentioned yesterday, we know these are challenges to implementing for certain the age assurance or age verification. This was a public consultation involving ANPD, the national authority. It was going to support our law, the so-called digital ECA. First, there is a decree written by the executive branch defining a number of things. And then there's going to be specific regulation on age verification. We have to bear in mind that the legislation has to be tax-proof. If you define in a piece of law a method, of course, it's very hard work to change the method in the legislation later. So what we are going to use are principles of operation and implementation rather than describing specific technologies. First, we have to develop this ecosystem of private and public solutions, and then we are going to see which are the ones that do not work and set them apart from those that work well and should be employed. We also wanted to expand further the discussion, talking about age assurance and age verification. Nobody knew what it was. So when they said age verification, said what? Biometrics, facial recognition? We have generalized, we have facial recognition all over, and that's what we thought. Some thought age verification was, but it's not that.
And that's exactly what the bets do. No, according to the regulation, they register, the people register themselves. Age assurance is not the same thing as checking and verifying someone's age. When you want to get into a nightclub, people don't get all your information. They just want to check if you are over 18 or not. And the same principle applies. Sometimes I just need this information, not even date of birth. I just want to know, to guarantee that people will go through a certain threshold. So this public hearing aims to design our own Brazilian vocabulary about our challenges and problems, and to disclose that debate throughout the society and companies. So far, we got 70 contributions. It sounds as a little, but not quite. We had some citizens really concerned, some people from the academy, researchers, and most of the contributions, around 50 of them, were given by civil society, companies which were directly affected by age assurance. A number of institutes participate, Alana Institute, Tech Kids Institute, and associations which produce electronic devices, associations of mobilities, associations which are representatives of social networks, and with a great visibility, a type of product or service that we would not see in the government before the ECA Bill of Rights, ECA Digitals. Now they have their own associations, they are, promoting a dialogue, and now we have a very significant channel of communications with those who are affected. These are the timetable. Here we have the table of the distributions and different entities participating. We also got a contribution from companies from the United States and United Kingdom. The fact that we had a less contribution that we would expect from the academy, it shows that we might promote more studies within the Brazilian academy. They might talk about online children's protection, but not from an age assurance perspective. And now we do need more people helping us to think over about that, and that is quite important. The hearing led to a number of stress, although many people understand that children and adolescents protection is key. We have the fact that we'll be collecting data from children and adolescents. Banks and banks, they collect information from adults, not from children and adolescents. And what is done to promote, it also exposes, and the risk that this data collection may lead to some sort of surveillance, being that public or private. Usually the private sector says the public surveillance is public, and the civil society worries about both the public and private. Although the ECA Digital, according to Article 12 and developers by Article 15, that emerges as an stress in the public hearing. Meta raised that, yes, if you do assurance at the level of the store or the device, user experience is much easier. We have the age sign, I open the internet, and I no longer have to go through those blocks. Conversely, operational systems providers, they may say, well, we don't see the risk. An application may be just a mask. You don't know what risk is behind. The risk, we cannot just verify one end. We have to check both ends. And moreover, you are going to have solutions that have a certain level of accuracy, but which are expensive. And Internet and CGI is the best place to recall that Internet is not the main social networks that people use. Internet goes much beyond that, is giant. A number of websites, a number of small providers and small entrepreneurs with their own device. If we have age assurance, which are expensive, without offering free options, that relies on a huge problem within the ecosystem. The big ones, they have their ready-made solutions or easy to be hired. And we have to think about public solutions as well, free solutions that will be valid to the whole internet to avoid any asymmetry issues.
Quarto ponto que é importante é quais serviços precisam fazer aferição de dados.
Which services will require age assurance?
Vocês podem ler lá cada desses eixos depois com calma.
You may read each one of those points, but there is another discussion, which is proportionality. If age insurance is invasive because it will collect data and that has to go through a control to access the internet, we have to be... Age assurance is not to do everything, it's not to a virtual encyclopedia. There are several uses of internet which do not represent a risk to children or adolescents. Therefore, age assurance is not required, and the obvious ones are those being discussed all over the globe: pornographic content, alcoholic beverage sales, bets, social media. These are the universal services where age assurance will be required. I will not go over with this document, but this is an overview of a number of questions. What are the barriers? Shared devices. Brazil is a country where father and mother, they are tired when they get home after a heavy day, and they give their smartphone to their children. And if that is an adult cell phone, how can I protect a shared device? How can I control age to perform an age assurance, because that child may end up accessing a pornographic site through their parents' smartphone. Pornography access is not widely spoken in Brazil. There is even a cultural barrier to address this topic. We talk a lot about sexual exploration, children's sexual exploitation. But if you wanted to follow the scientific literature, we have this very severe problem of children in a very early age accessing pornography. I'm not talking about abuse, I'm talking about mainstream pornography, where there is extreme content which is easily available in the internet today, and that it causes an impact, a huge impact in the social, emotional, and sexual development, as well as cognitive development, with several extreme cases of violence. So we have to talk about pornography in Brazil. But you know, people, they have an obstacle talking about that. It's probably a psychoanalytic issue. The public hearing also has raised the risks, surveillance risks to create databases that may be attacked, that may leak, that raises the level of risks, frauds, scams. In the public hearing, they also said that they have to train artificial intelligence to other means in pornography, and the UK is facing that. Access to evasion by the use of VPN. And impacts of age assurance to cause digital exclusion. You create another set to internet, and those who find it difficult to access a digital services, they have to also go over it. Barriers to small companies, small entrepreneurs, the cost to be given to end consumers, and also attrition. Whenever there is a difficulty in the use, you have to go over another screen, you have to press a button, and sometimes an elderly users which has digital literacy will be blocked if that is not done in a much easier way. All of that is mapped in the hearing. There is recommendations for that, where proportionality means, although the hearing by itself did not reach a consensus, they said, well, I am of low risk, so this is a definition. that will be in the data protection. The hearing lets very clear that we have to think about the double layer verification, age assurance by the operational system, but also when you have the high-risk application, especially those with the 18 plus, you may have some layer of age assurance. Moreover, the ANPD will inspect that data collected for age assurance will not be used for other means. That is a challenge and is very clear in the Eco Digital. And thinking about an open internet, interoperability, and following international standards to improve implementations by providers who are transnational, and also to allow that foreigners who come to Brazil, like Derry who is here, will be able to navigate in the internet without any problem. And thinking about all those solutions for age assurance, verifications, that has been a concern. ANPD has to think about an accreditation services where providers for age assurance will be accredited. That's exactly what Australia did to implement their law of online security, online safety, and the public hearing shows that ZKP, zero knowledge proof, that is in the radar of ANPD. That is the zero knowledge proof, which will be well explained in the next panel. So I won't spend much more time with that. That is a token which sends age sign. I'm over 18 without any further control of what you see or you do in the internet. Any questions that are raised during the public hearing are questions about the scalability, how implementable that can be, how much it will cost, and also the importance to set preventive barriers, and so on and so forth. And it's so important to have one day to talk about this very important topic. And I have some news to break, which is a decree for the regulation. It's very clear to us that the private sector, which was mainly affected, was complaining about previsibility and forecastability, if they will be affected or not, which we had just 6 months to develop the Bill of Rights Digital. Other countries, they had 2-3 years. The European Union approved that digital services back in 2022. And the digital, and now with the Brazilian way, I mean, thanks to our Brazilian way, we are going to do our best to conclude this mission within this little time. And thanks to the Brazilian civil society, we thought about a decree. First, to preserve proportionality, which is one of the principles of age assurance and verification. Whatever represents a risk to children and adolescents is divided within different categories. And the 9th article of ECA Digital did not set that clearly. There were 5 different interpretations of implementing the article to allow forecastability and to implement age assurance. We described that as being scope and non-scope, exactly because we have several layers of protection which go below those of age assurance. The Brazilian court will talk about inappropriated content. It will talk about audio, visual, work and the domain of indicative classification, which is informative. It tells families to decide upon themselves based on the risk assessment if they will allow or not children to have access to a certain content or if they are going to consume that content together. I mean, you may take a child to a movie which a film is censored to 14 and your child is 13, but you are together. That is a recommendation, but that child is being followed by one of their parents. And, you know, sometimes we have a child who is 6 with older siblings, and that may represent a risk. If my child, who is 3 years of age, was exposed to a series as Vandinha in the Netflix, he will have nightmares. And there we are talking about violence, drugs, sexual content, nudity, drugs that will require some measures that are present in the streaming, cable TV, but then you have blocks, you have passwords, you also have all the investigation and supervision mechanisms like parental advocacy, and this is one of the prohibited contents. They are legal for adults, but according to the Brazilian law, that is fully prohibited to children and adolescents. That somehow will have to do age assurance, cigarette sales, bets, alcoholic beverages, pornography, explicit erotical products, those with some pornographic content, not all of them. Otherwise, we will be not allowing to those who are over 18 to buy condoms, preservatives.
Classificados de jornal, né? Massagem que chamava antigamente.
We also have the massage issues, which were made by sports, and also in the rewards for bets for games. If there is an electronic game offering box, that user has to be over 18. As that is a prohibition, parents, they should not authorize it. That requires an effective impairment. A child may get to the supermarket and see beer, but they cannot go through the cashier. The same should apply in the internet purchase, and the same applies to illegal contents. Not even adults should be able to have access to that because they are criminal. And according to the constitutional of the Article 19 of the legal civil framework, that you have to put down those contents and to communicate authorities, which is very clear on the Articles 27 to 30 of the Bill of Rights. So this is what we are aiming to propose about the implementation of the Bill of Digital Bill of Rights in Brazil. It's still talking about adult content, and that has not been dealt in the legislation, and much is spoken about pornography. Some countries, such as the USA, they have the Miller test, which is done by the Supreme Court, defined back in the 60s, to understand if that is obscene or not. But the Brazilian legislation has never implemented that, and we will have to decide throughout the Digital Bill of Rights if that is or not a pornographic content. There a chatbot in artificial intelligence with a sexual content that should be prohibited by children and adolescents. And ANPD has to deal with that. There are some issues that are created in the marketplace. May I sell like underwear? There will be other cases which will require some sort of flexibility, but we have to comply with the law. The Digital Act says that we cannot limit the freedom of expression of people. We have to tell what is indeed freedom of expression.
If you have audiovisual work already classified and indicated, it is a curated knowledge. This is not pornography. It was done with the intention of having pornography. If it's something of content of art, education, information, journalism, to prevent, for example, violence, sexual violence, you have to talk about that. We cannot say this is pornography because otherwise we would just get to the opposite intention. And the same to health promotion, the use of condoms, for example. Health promotion, if it's a video that teaches, for example, how to have safe sex, maybe there is some level of explicitity, but this is not pornography. I've found many doctors, for example, preparing videos and talking about that. That would be applicable for adolescents. The content, therefore, would have to be accessible. And at the same time, books, audiobooks, music, audio streaming. The last time we had control over this kind of content, Gary has not seen that because he is somewhere else. We used to have dictatorship here in Brazil. There was a decree here, 1077, which stated that you needed to submit a protocol to the Ministry of Justice if you wanted a book to be approved. And of course, we do not want that kind of control. A song, a bad word, well, we do not want to have any kind of censorship. We take it all very seriously. And my take-home message is the following. We have taken a long journey. We've worked very hard in recent months, listening to all different stakeholders and trying to understand how we could have a technology which we're not used to dealing with would be included in that for age verification. And it's just described like that because we have a combination, an alliance of different stakeholders who have been working with it for a long time. The society will see the results of that in future months. We are thinking about having gradual implementation of it because we need users to get adapted. We need the companies to come up with solutions. We want to create the culture of age verification, accessing internet where there is a risk, and one more verification step would be required. The program today has been very well thought. I would like really to congratulate all Safernet team and say that it can be done. Other countries are doing it. Solutions, part of the new mindset, working and doing okay. This is not any that complicated. There are some useful solutions, others are not very much. Some protect identity, others do not. And this is the discussion that we are inviting you all to join us, to have an open democratic internet, to preserve the right of participation and freedom of speech of children and adolescents. We need that. When I started considering that, something that really surprised me is that children and adolescents in the internet, opportunities of learning, access to knowledge. Yes, that's true. The life of a child and adolescent is most all the time in the internet. But we needed to talk about risk and protective measures. With this discussion that we have had and has taken us to the digital ACA, we are also talking about protection. We are applying basic common sense principles. My kids do not go alone on their own. Parents have to decide what's going to be the age for which they are going to be able to start sleeping, having sleeping overs, going out to friends' home, right? It's high time we did it for the internet as well. I'm very optimistic with the implementation of this new legislation. It's a global movement. And We have always wanted Brazil to be in the leading role of countries adopting solutions, being a democratic, plural country, but protecting its youth. Some of those large companies, they are going to implement solutions first here and there, but we've always wanted Brazil to take first stage so that no Brazilian child would have less protection than any child in Brazil, in the US or Europe. This is all what we've wanted, and I think it's doing. And if we succeed next year, Tiago, we are going to talk about more and more deliverables that are going to transform our internet into a safer place. Thank you all very much.
Muito obrigada,
Ricardo. Thank you very much, Ricardo, for your excellent presentation, for bringing us very interesting insights, lots of layers and gaps that have to be breached. We really believe that the age verification, age assurance culture will come in place soon. And this is the topic that we are going to keep on addressing, but I would like to remind you that we have simultaneous translation into Portuguese in the next panel. If you need headsets, they are available outside.
Ainda dá tempo.
Still have got time to grab one if you need it. Our next panel is going to talk about public and private infrastructure for age verification, a topic that we've been addressing since the beginning of our second day. To join us today, I would like to invite Yasodara Cordova, Senior Assistant for Cyber Security at DataPrev. Welcome. Let me also invite Garen Checkley. He is Product Manager with Google. Welcome, Garen. Let me also invite Ana Clara Segura de Azevedo, Leader of Government Affairs and Public Policies for Google. Welcome. And Luisa Prado, Leader of Partnerships for Google Portfolio in Brazil. Welcome. As the mediator of the discussion, I'm going to invite Tiago Tavares, the CEO of Safernet Brasil. We are going to try to allow some time for Q&A. We know sometimes it's not possible. Those who are joining us online can also send through chat the questions, and our assistants here are also here to support you should you have any questions to ask. Tiago, please, you have the floor. Thank you, Natalia. Good morning, everyone. Well, after this wonderful keynote talk, the opening talk with Ricardo, we are now going to have a session to go deeper into this topic and really understand how it can work in practice. How can we have age verification in practice in Brazil according to the public sector and its understanding? We have one of the most experienced Brazilian specialists in this area. She knows lots of details about that. She was a member of CWEB, NIC.br, someone highly experienced in the World Bank. And we also have here with us a wonderful team from Google, which has been working in the implementation of different age verification methods. Thank you, Gary, for coming.
For here, and thank you so much. We are very pleased to have you here. E a gente vai ter a oportunidade de entender como que
back in Portuguese. We are going to understand how the private sector has been implemented. It has already been implementing some age verification mechanisms in other countries. And I'm sure it's going to be quite clear to all of you that it doesn't have to be rocket science. It's something doable. And what's being proposed, it's not something unique to Brazil. It's something really that can be done, it's feasible, and it's something that has already been implemented in different countries in the world, including the US. I'm going to start with Yasodhara, and I would like to ask you, Yasodhara, to tell us a little bit more about why there is a new gold standard for age verification in the new systems, and she's going to describe it. Good. Now you can all hear me. Thank you very much, Tiago, for the invitation. Always a pleasure to be here. Thank you for all of those joining us online through YouTube streaming in the Safernet channel. I'm going to be very brief because everybody says, wow, it's going to be censorship and the government will be aware of which are the websites I'm visiting. There are a number of things against age verification in internet. If you know me, you know that I'm in favor of privacy. I am an advocate of privacy. I'm completely against censorship of any kind of really checking or invasion. But age verification is not against the privacy elements or pseudo-anonymity and others. Quite to the contrary. Age verification tries to deal with a problem, a very well-known problem. Many people try to simply put the blame on the parents, but it's a collective issue. It's not something individually limited to the families. And we have to deal with technology. In addition to regulation and education, and we've seen the excellent presentation of Ricardo, but technology can help us deal with that, preserving privacy and security, and even better, providing businesses to flourish, because we know smaller companies, startups, or those that have small operations cannot simply afford with the current ecosystem of verification. And that's not the only problem we have.
Ai, agora foi. Eu fiz tão pequena a letra que nem eu consigo ler, gente.
Such small print, I can barely read myself, she says. This screen tells us exactly about what I've just said. We now have to understand that we are designing our internet interactions for the next 20, 30 years. Age verification is inevitable. Verification for some specific contexts, age verification for most systems. It's inevitable because for many years, internet was a very good place. Few people, when it started, the web, right? Then it has quickly become a nightmare for some specific group. I've been a user since very young, and I've had my own share of bad experiences in a deregulated environment where people can do whatever they want. So I think it's good that now we are globally aware of the importance of organizing internet so that it can become a nice, welcoming environment for everyone, so that children can be just at the place where they should be, so that adults can have their preserved rights, freedom of expression, association, so on and so forth, which are all important for democracy and for social interaction. And there are ways of doing it technically. In Brazil, we have an overuse of the legal base of interest, and we have document and biometrics for everything, and we send document and biometrics all over without even know where it's going to and who's going to use that, which country. We are not aware of that, you see, as a society. So yes, there is a risk of loss of privacy, data leak, because our ecosystem is not organized in favor of that. Our ecosystem is organized in terms of QRC. QYC is necessary, but there are also leaks and loss of control over the way we work on identification.
Consegui. Pronto, então estão aí os riscos, né? A gente já sofre esses riscos, a gente já tem uma exposição exagerada
There is exaggerated exposure of data through chat and other. There is no security device behind them, and it's very easy to extract information. There is the risk of mass vigilance because anyone can collect the data, create a database, segment and use it. And there is also legal uncertainty because the data protection law cannot always be met in this situation. There is an overuse, really, of the legal reasons for accessing personal information.
Então, o que acontece? Existe uma solução.
There is one solution.
Existe uma solução que tem uma série de soluções.
Well, there are a number of solutions that have been discussed in technical forum. And some countries
uma solução baseada em padrões,
which are based on standards. There is also the need of trusting the ecosystem. No solution is 99% perfect, but it brings a good possibility to our age verification context, giving consistency and robustness that we didn't used to have, because our ecosystem has been created through QIC and not age verification or control of users over his or her own data. The solution is based on verifiable credentials. It's the W3C standards present in open access platforms. It gives encryption, security. It's a age e-token without disclosing name, identity, or ID or biometrics. And there is one more advantage, which is one of the most interesting things for Brazil, is the fact that that age credential created can be reused. It means that the cost for small companies and startups will go down. It's a new solution. You probably recall that of the creative solutions. We are replacing, or not replacing, but rather complementing a solution, because many organizations will still need a complete QYOC with biometrics, with full documentation. But if not necessary, they won't have to collect that amount of data just to have age verification. Said that, in the traditional model, there is a transfer of sensible data. We need that exchange of data to understand that with AI, Some points have been questioned because there are deepfakes of voice, of face, fingerprints, fake documents. Before LLMs, fake documents existed in Brazil. Of course, we used to see that throughout the web surface. Lots of templates that would be known as and would be really identified as valid, even though they had been fake.
And we also have, in addition to the sensitive sign or data, sign sensitive data, that's not yet mature in terms of safety. And that is a model to a disaster. Based on that, we have a safe binary structure, and we are going to create a reliable chain where the chain participants will have the technical and regulatory conditions to embrace the age verification without the identification of the people's identity. We are going to have a larger decentralization and freedom of choice. Today, I'm not able to choose my biometry provider. I wish I could choose the company that will do my biometry to access my bank. I cannot do it. I don't know where my biometry goes through, where that is training. I have no control of how often that will be trained or used. Okay, companies, they obey LGPD. Okay, but you know that if in Brazil you have creative lawyers, much can be done. So, and here I'm talking about the fact that we use biometry even to get to a shopping center, to a mall. There is a mall in the federal capital that uses biometry for kids of 13 years old to get into the playground area. Fine, but where is that data taken to? Who is managing and trading it? Who is isolating it? And if there is a leakage, who has the right to access? Are we pretty sure that that data is not being assessed by third parties? This is just one single example. There are many others, and we could get really stressed and afraid of. So I will save you. So we have a little competition into the market as we're talking about a closed ecosystem. We don't have much choice, and that generates a concentration and a competition with not enough space to become more innovative. And that will hinder consumers, users, and we won't be able to control data. That will be difficult, and people will have more control about frauds. We have several CPF monitoring systems, email, data, because everything leaks and becomes public, and we have to improve our ecosystem. Why am I talking about that? Well, my friends who have been working for so long with privacy, they keep saying that they will stop with the internet. Yes, it will improve. It will improve because we are going to be protecting people, and it will not generate tracing or censorship if we do that properly. That's the time. Everyone that wants to look for solutions based on cryptography and solutions based on technology, where they will foster that conversation so we can improve, we can raise the bar of that market, a market which is so interesting, which generates so many jobs and benefits to the country. We are going to have a real digital economy and real compliance, not just based on regulatory speeches or regulatory applications that may be found in our daily acception, such as beverage sales, cigarettes, or restricted products, as well as the betting platforms with adult contents. where we'll be able to establish more reliability whenever we are searching for digital health. Privacy is a tool against surveillance. And if we include that into our conversation of privacy, we'll be able to verify age and censorship, allowing freedom of expression, and to let us being free to express ourselves freely in the web. We are going to have another multilateral benefits, such as access to freedom, protection of freedom. We are going to be more innovative. Small companies that still cannot do age verification, they'll be able to do it. The credentials, they check and verify other areas, such as documents verifications, where we'll be able to convey documents in a more assertive ways without rendering the smartphone with an open screen. Yesterday, I was doing a check-in and I gave my open smartphone unblocked to the hotel staff. And he was polite. He just took a look and gave me back. Sometimes people take your smartphone and go inside somewhere. I fought with my building for a couple of months to stop with biometry to get into the building, because I have no idea whatsoever who the supplier is. And, you know, even in my own building, I didn't know who has been hired for biometries. If we do that, we are going to generate more business. People will navigate into the web feeling protected in an appropriated environment. There are many things which are at our availability and that should not be. Therefore, the future is based on a digital identity, which is based on an open infrastructure, based on free software, where auditors will be able to verify the codes, the experts will be able to verify what is being collected and distributed, and if that is keeping our autonomy, safety, to allow a mature internet where innovation and compliance, they will be side by side, not fighting, together with fundamental rights, where everyone will feel safe in the web. I would have much more to say, but that's not the right time. So I conclude by now. Thank you.
Muito obrigado, Iaso.
Thank you, Iaso. You have enlightened so much our discussion and the importance of this debate, such as raising interoperability, open codes, verification.
Eu acho que essa é uma base que nos dá certo conforto.
And that allows us to keep going, to advance in a very rational discussion.
Traz isso de uma maneira muito elegante, muito compreensiva.
And your speech was very comprehensive. Thank you so much for that. We do know that there is a long way of construction, maybe 30 years. I hope it does not take so long. But the Eco Digital will be passed by next month, and that will grow. If we have that common ground, which is key for our starting point, where from a common understanding, we'll be able to build up brick by brick and go towards that topic in a consensus that goes beyond age verification. Imagine if we get an original identification document and that we give away, not copies, but the original docs, or maybe authenticated documents or some equivalents to that authentication to everywhere we go. or sending that somewhere else or to somebody else, and that person will have that identification documentation in their smartphone. This is what happens when someone asks me for my driver's license. You open your app gov.br and you share your identification, original identification documents, because that is not a copy, with maybe service providers, travel agencies, in a hotel at the check-in time, in a physician's building. You know, you need a document. If you don't have it on hand, you send by WhatsApp. So we give away that. And then you still ask, why? How come there is so much fraud in Brazil? 900,000 smartphones are stolen annually. 3,000 a day are stolen. 900,000 annually are stolen. I'm talking about cell phones with all your documents in it, just in the city of São Paulo. Okay, and to go on with the discussion, I would like now to invite Gary Checkley. I know that's not just a Brazilian discussion, but it's going everywhere. No, we have Anna before Garen, okay? So Anna, can you let us know how Google, that has 85 or maybe 90% of users database of operational systems in mobile cell phones in Brazil and Androids? What is your take on that, and how are other countries doing on age verification? Thank you, Tiago. So we're going to speak collectively here, representing Google. First of all, I'd like to thank Safernet for the invitation and also for the wonderful contributions that we are having in the design of Eco Digital. And cybersecurity is a topic which is very dear to Google, and we are here to talk about age assurance. There is no silver bullet for that, and our approach is multifaceted, and we have a current worry to balance the robust safety and also users' privacy. It's not a trade-off between one or another, but they have to, be aligned. That is a global challenge, not just a challenge in Brazil. And how may we protect youngsters online and simultaneously to preserve open, creative nature and privacy of internet to all, with the involvement of stakeholders all over, with several suggestions, proposals for age assurance and verification. Google also believes that an approach based on risk is the best practices to be deployed, and the rigor of the verification should be proportional to the assurance responsibility is due to the developer, who is the one that knows very well the content and the nature of the service. Here we have a developer perspective. As Google is a developer, we have several proprietary apps like YouTube, Google Play, Google Maps, Google Photos, you name it. And we are concerned of age assurance, so our users will have access to a content which is appropriated to their age range. And there are several methodologies for that. But similarly, we are responsible to give a platform to the ecosystem that will go beyond the tools. We understand that we are liable also with the ecosystem, and our liability is to help and collaborate to that ecosystem, offering tools, empowering the ecosystem, empowering developers so they may become independent regardless of their size, where they will have access to the tools to know the age range of their users, and with that they will allow proper content to that age range of those users. To have a universal answer or approach would be ideal, a universal solution, but we understand that that should be an approach of several layers with several entities and agents participating at this mission. Let me reinforce that age verification throughout digital wallets is a potential to a near future, can be very powerful, but yet there is a trajectory to be followed. In the adoption of users of the system. We understand there is a need to have different methodologies available. The more options we have and the easier the user's verification will be, the greater will be the chance of users to comply with, to make the verification, and to be adequate to the internet moment. Together with the government, we want to enhance verification by wallets and also to have availability of a range of different methodologies to our users. And to reinforce the pillars of age assurance that will guide our work as a result of a number of interaction and relationship to governmental agencies, industry, and experts. Number one, respect users' privacy, preserving the possibility of anonymity or pseudonymous. This is the first thing to be done. Second, to preserve users' access to information and services. At the same time that we are thinking about protecting youngsters online, how can we avoid to treat all users as children or to avoid interfering the ability of adults to have access to information? And last but not least, to avoid intrusive methodologies, to reserve those methodologies just to those cases which are high-risk services that will require a high degree, reliability degree of reliability.
Nunca é demais a gente lembrar que a aferição de idade é termo guarda-chuva.
Age assurance or verification is a topic which deploys into three other steps. Age declaration, that is a self-declared age at the time of the account creation. Age estimative, which is machine learning to estimate if that user is minor or not of 18 years of age. And the hard verification, which will involve the need of physical documentation or any other additional information. And from a developer perspective, Google uses a multi-layer approach, which will involve these three methodologies throughout the user's action. The flow is designed in such a way where users will declare their age in a very honest way. They cannot get, once they declare the age self-declaration, they cannot go back to that page for any changes. To perform a change, they will have to verify their age with a hard verification. Once the age is declared, if the user is below the consent age of that country, automatically that user will be guided to a family link account, which will be a parental control account. If they refuse to go through this family control account, the account is deleted. If the users declare that is over 18, we'll have to make sure that that self-declaration is true. And then the age estimative model is deployed, is already in place in Europe, and we are in a rollout phase in Brazil. And thanks to a number of signs, such as the longevity of that account, that is an account that is on for over 20 years, for instance. Also, the type of search conducted by the user. What is that user looking for? IFRS, rents, there are several models, thanks to machine learning, that will help us to diagnose with accuracy if that account indeed belongs to someone who is over 18. If our system is still is still in doubt, we proceed to a third step, which is the hard age verification. We understand that not all users will have access to all necessary methodologies. So if we're talking about digital wallets, it's necessary that the user will have a document in their wallet. If they don't have it at the time, we have some additional solutions. In Europe, for instance, we have a physical ID, which is a photo of the ID that is sent for further verification, credit card, email check, which is a third party who does it, where they verify current activities at their email accounts, which are an indication that that user is over 18, such as electricity account, airplane tickets, or others that are activities performed by adults.
Also take selfies. The images are not documented by Google. They remain at the level of the provider. They are tokenized, and we just get the response of the estimate of age range. And finally, digital wallet, which is what we are going to discuss in further details, and Luis is going to talk about that. This is the method that we've been using to check users who are going to use the service of Google as a developer, but also available for the ecosystem. And we've been working for the development of a reliable matrix, massively adopted in upcoming months. Something that would be available to any wallet and to any developer. Luísa?
Acho que sim, sim. Boa. Então, a Ana focou bem de falar como que a gente
has focused on how we approach the topic as a service provider, but we also understand that we have a responsibility with the whole ecosystem. And we've started we had a deep dive into age verification some years ago in Google before the discussion got more frequent in Brazil. And if I can take a side comment, in these events, we don't feel crazy because now and then I say, do I really need my biometrics to get into the building? I'm just coming today here. But we've tried to come up with solutions that try to deal with all the challenges that we've been gathering here, mentioned by all of you. Google has been investing in open infrastructure. Rather than developing a 100% proprietary solution to the market, which is not the way we operate, we try to understand the best practice and the trends and started working together with the standards. W3C, ISO, and we've tried to create an infrastructure that would be compatible with the international standards respecting interoperability, privacy, and we've created the API, which works as if it were a pipeline, so to speak. So data would just flow from a credential stored wherever it is, regardless of the wallet where it's stored, and the data then is transferred to service providers and those that need to have the information about age. We've implemented the best practice and the standards in our Surface, so in Android and also Chrome as a browser. It's a technology that works even if you have a different operational system. iOS, for example, you can navigate through Chrome, so the API would work still there. And it interacts with all different standards, so it's interoperable in terms of the wallet. Where is the document originally stored? If it follows the same international standards, so verifiable credentials, ISO, W3C, data can then be transferred end-to-end. So we've tried to deal with the submission of the initial document, right? And it applies to online and physical world, because we're talking about online, and it tends to be problematic because you only have the option of sending a print or a PDF. But in the physical world, the same happens. You have to give your mobile phone, for example, for someone to check. So I've brought the API into the API, the possibility of checking data, isolated data in the online and on a site or physical world. How does it work? And we are going to show you live how it's been working abroad.
Hoje, a carteira do Google está naturalmente já integrada a
Google Wallet is already integrated in the API, but it's not the only one. Other wallets can also be integrated with this API and have a transfer of data. We can store different types of credentials, and I've brought you some examples that we already have in place abroad. We have partnerships with some governments, and Garen is going to show his US driver's license in the Google's wallet. In the US, things differ from state to state, so we have to make partnerships individually. 11 states in the US already allow the Google Wallet with documents, and we have some projects in other countries, such as India, as I'm going to show you. So it's a US government document tokenized in our wallet, so it's stored safely, as we have with our credit cards, for example. You have an option of saving it in your wallet to use it for paying purposes. Google can also issue documents for our own data. It's not of course, the national identification document, but it's a safe document considering our own internal verification, and also documents issued by private sector. There's an interesting case in Germany with a bank SPAR case. So the bank account holder can log in and create a credential to be stored and saved in the wallet. The financial sector is very well positioned to do it because they've been having quick processes, very strict processes for a long time, QUIC processes, right? So that's brought into the wallet. How that can be used for age verification. Let's say to get into the website to buy alcoholic drinks, I could use this credential. That, I mean, in Germany. Each country has its own reality, and we respect that. But these are the three types of documents with which we've been working. Good. So let's say there is a document into my wallet. How can it be shared? We are very concerned about the user's experience, of course. So we wanted to be an experience with very little attrition, something intuitive that wouldn't affect the website performance. So we are concerned about the user as well as the service provider, which of course is not going to risk losing customers. This is of course a a non-existing website. It's just a mock website. Let's say a bet website. So I want to use my digital credentials. Different documents in the wallet, as Garrett's going to show us. Sometimes it's issued by the government. It can be a document issued by a bank. You can choose the one you are going to use. And there is a visibility over which data the website is requesting to see. Based on what Zador has said, you don't have to share all your data. You just have to confirm your age, your name. And that will be seen by the user. And you give consent for that specific occurrence, and that closes the flow.
Acho que eu acabei nem comentando isso no começo, mas
I failed to mention when we started that this is a public infrastructure. Any developer can access our documentation, understand how it works, ask to use it. We really believe in providing broad availability to developers of all sizes.
Naturalmente trabalhando a parte de quais documentos a gente tem, né? Então,
and then we can fine-tune with the type of documents. This is the experience. Now, let me talk to you about the zero knowledge proof. What is it? This is one of the main characteristics of this API. It means sharing a minimum set of information. I've given you my known example. If I had my own credential, I'll have all data, my name, date of birth, address, my taxpayer's number, and attributes. Over the age of 18, true. Over the age of 21, true. Over the age of 16, true. We can have all the attributes within the wallet, but when a website of alcohol drinks will ask to check my age, the only attribute that I'm going to share is over 18, true. The example, the website wouldn't know my name, my mother's name, father's name, no, all the data in my document, the website will not have access to that. It's good for the website and for the user, of course, because then the website wouldn't have to deal with all sensitive data, right, and be able really to have just access to what is required. This is what we provide through API in our zero knowledge proof. It's available. And one last point before I hand it over to Gary. The API that we developed is global. It's operable, interoperable in terms of wallet, and it's the same for developers throughout the world. So international companies which are providing services and Brazilian companies which are providing services to foreign companies will have one single access to documents from the US, such as Garrett's. If they integrate through the API, they'll have access to his document or documents from India, UK, and all countries with which we've been working. We strongly believe in the power of this ecosystem and working with standards such as this. And we are not alone in this journey. We are very proud to have been working with the Indian government. The document will be in Google's wallet and in other wallets as well. It's great. But this is one more really successful example and one more document that's going to be provided. Our time is almost up, but I'm going to ask Garen to show us live. It's not something that's going to happen. It's something in production and working.
Actually, I can use the microphone. Hi, everyone. Sorry, my Portuguese is quite bad, so you'll have to bear with the English. But we're excited to show some of what we've been talking about live. And thanks again for having us here. We're excited by this event. Excited by the collaboration, all the innovation that the government has been doing. I mean, we work closely with the Indian government, with governments in the United States and the EU, and what's happening in Brazil is really cutting edge, and it's exciting to see the adoption being driven by the Brazilian ecosystem. So, I just quite briefly want to show all of this live. So I'm coming from California. So all of these are United States documents. And what I'm doing here is I'm opening my Google Wallet. And inside of my Google Wallet, I have my payment cards, like many other people do. But I also have digital credentials. Okay. I've got 2 digital credentials. I've got a driver's license that's actually issued by the state of California, where I live. And this driver's license has a whole bunch of personal information about it, but because it's stored as a private credential on my device, Google actually doesn't have visibility into what's inside of that credential unless I, as a user, consent to that. So you can see, I can actually, are we live streaming on the YouTube? Is it possible to not show my phone on the live stream? Because what I want to do, I want to show all of you the information that's here, but I don't want to show everyone online the information. Do you want to? Are we good? Okay. You can. Well, okay, yeah, I want to show everyone in the room what's on my phone. I just don't want to show everyone on the internet what's on my phone. So this. Great. Thank you. They're pausing. Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you. So this is important because, as we've been discussing here, the control over the information, the privacy is paramount. And so as a user, I want to be able to see what information is in my credential. I want to be able to choose what information is shared from my credential.
It's all good.
Okay, great. I hope they do my hair even better on the live. Okay, great. So what we can see here, I'm showing you in the. I'm trusting that you're not going to steal my identity here, even though I'm just showing you a photo of this. So I can open up my California issued driver's license, and you can see all the information that's inside of the driver's license here. Okay, it's my driver's license number, the date of expiration, my name, birthday. There's even a photo here. All of this is information that's stored within the credential on my phone, and it requires me to consent to unlock it, to view it, and to share it with any app or website. I have a second credential. So Luisa mentioned that Google can also issue a credential. We call this credential an ID pass. And we can also see the other types of information that's inside of this credential. This credential is all stored on device. This credential was, it determined that it was me because it used my passport. And so you can see my passport number, my birthday, portrait, etc. So these are the credentials that are inside of my Google Wallet. And apps, this is a test app that we have. It's open source on GitHub if anybody wants to try it out or look at the code. But apps can decide what credentials they want to request from and what attributes or what information from this credential. So for example, we heard this story of going into a bar or going into an apartment building. What information is actually needed to go into a bar? Well, in California, you need to know that somebody's 21 to get a drink. I think in Brazil, it's 18, right? So, okay, we'll change this to age over 21 if I wanted to order some wine online in California. And this app, there's all of these potential things that the app can ask for. But right now, the app is only going to be asking for, is the age actually over 21? Let's see if it works. Oh, okay. Live demo, always a risk of the demo not working. Uh-oh. Oh, this is the exciting part, right? Let's make sure. Okay, we're going to try the backup option. So either apps or websites can request this. So we will do a request on a, oh, okay, something is wrong. Maybe it has to do with the demo. Here, you know what? Let me do a quick restart of the phone. Yeah, it might be. Also, so all of this should be on device, so it shouldn't be connectivity dependent. But as we say whenever we're giving live demos at Google, you never know what the demo gods will be looking for in this moment. So.
A gente não quis usar site de uma marca específica para também não ficar.
We didn't want to use a website of a specific brand, not to show the name or the brand of an American website, but that's alive and with some companies abroad, especially for age content, adult content, for age verification, and there are some other interesting case uses. And in the meantime, while he's starting the phone, let me give some additional information. Anyway, there are some companies such as the UK. There is a case of a public transportation case. They use wallets for different prices. For instance, people above or below a certain age, they pay different rates. So that's the case in the UK. And also account recovery that has been of great interest. Even marketplaces that have lost access to password, there is no more email, there is no other way to recover your account. So they are using the document which is saved in the wallet. Well, there are several case uses, and we may, work with the age verification, age assurance to prove if someone is above 18 or 21, and also to improve the ecosystem of users. Users of the quick solution. If to open a bank account, you need much more than just prove your age. With one single solution, we are able to access both topics to add solutions, which can be good for age assurance and also to improve the flows that we have.
Okay, great. We can go back to the camera now. A quick restart appeased the demo gods. So what I'm showing now is what would happen if the test app requested proof of age being over 18. So what happens is there's a pop-up from the Android ecosystem, and you can see which credentials that are on the phone from which wallet can provide this proof of being over 18. So you can actually see there's two credentials here. There's my driver's license and my ID pass, because both of those credentials have the information that allow me to prove that I'm over 18. But it's only asking me to share the information over 18. This was the example that Luisa gave. This is what we call zero knowledge proof, where you're only sharing the information that's actually necessary. So that's how the app would do it. And then I've got a second part of the demo here, where not only does this work online, but this works for in-person presentation as well. Because these are open standards. I'm actually using an iPhone here. And what I can do with my iPhone, let's see if the demo gods like this, is I can hold my phone close to the iPhone, and it's asking for proof of age from my Android phone to share with my iPhone. And I've not handed my phone over to the person at the apartment building or behind the bar. There's no handing phone. It's all using local connectivity, local Bluetooth and local Wi-Fi. And I'm sharing age over 18 and portrait. I'm not sharing my name. I'm not sharing my driver's license number. I still have to authenticate it, because remember, every time I share the credential, I have to prove that it's me who's doing so. And you can see that the other device, this is my beautiful driver's license picture, has received the photo and the over 18 value to prove that now I can have a drink.
A
great example of the physical verification is that in the United States, that is integrated with some airports. You don't have to hand in your cell phone to the person that is verifying that at the airport. You may do, you can use that verification. And the pipe that Luisa showed is of an open code. Any API, any wallet may integrate it to it. You may take that information from any wallet, not just Google Office. And Google integrates an Android Chrome to API. Our system is ready to go. Any developer that would like to use this methodology is ready to get the credential and the developer.
One other thing to mention, because this has come up in multiple sessions, is that the cost for me to assert my age to my other phone was $0. So there was no charge to do this trusted, cryptographically driven KYC process. There was no KYC process. As the person who wanted to know if the other phone was over 18, it's using open standards, and so there's no cost associated. So this is important for the small businesses that don't have to face the cost burden of doing this every time.
And also people also ask, Garen showed an example that uses NFC for in-person presentation. Vou falar em português, né? Desculpa. Ele usou caso que usou NFC, né?
There is a case that uses NFC, but it uses with the QR code as well. NFC is not very common in Brazil, so that's possible to do via QR code.
Bem. Thank you so much, Gary. Lovely to see how this could happen and we are still in develop in other countries. Eu queria fazer uma pergunta, acho que a gente está estourado com o tempo aqui.
Yeah, we are running late in time, but there is one key question.
Eu queria comentário de vocês.
And I'd like to hear your comments on that, please.
Uma necessidade de lado dos órgãos reguladores em vários
regulatory agencies
de acompanhar se a verificação de idade tal
to check if age assurance or age verification has been done or not.
Dos grandes temas aí usados é a tal da trilha de auditoria.
And there is the auditing trail.
Quais são as salvaguardas?
What are the safeguards that are necessary that we should consider to guarantee that this auditing trail will not be used for other purpose?
So I can briefly start, and then Luisa, please add on. The way that we've designed this protocol here, it's the issuer of the credential knows that somebody is requesting a verification, but they don't know who is requesting a verification. So they can know that somebody's tried to enter this apartment building or somebody's tried to access this website, but they don't know who the individual is. And that's by cryptographic design in order to preserve the privacy, but still allow some level of trust and data flow. This is very different than every single time the website, the wine.com website, having to go back to the central issuer and tell them every single time, is this person allowed to access this website? That model is not privacy preserving. But when you still have, but in the model that we just presented with cryptographic proof, you can trust the credential, but the issuer isn't tracking the individual action, and it can't be attributed to that individual person. All of that information only stays on device because all of this is bound to the actual phone or device that's happening. It doesn't require internet connectivity. It doesn't require internet activity for this transaction to happen, and nor does it send the personal information back to the issuer.
Não, só queria acrescentar que foi ótimo ponto que você tocou. Exatamente porque a gente
Exactly.
nesse momento
That's
de
it.
inflexão, né,
We are right now,
dos tipos de
you know, studying the different types of technologies and the productive chains of this type of verification. We have a very good regulatory examples in the globe. Europe has their ecosystem, which is already regulated. They are improving the regulations, of course. So this is a very important discussion that we should bring to the Brazilian context, as if we were celebrating 18 years in our system of age verification, identity verification. So we have to bring out a discussion about auditing compliance. ANPD is becoming more robust now, and it's high time that we discuss the regulatory bits and to understand what's the role that each one of us has to play within this ecosystem. We know that there are problems still to be discussed, such as how can we revoke a credential, who will be the testifier of that. All of that has to be discussed in a regulatory setting. So I invite you all to keep going on this discussion.
Bem, nós estamos em tese com horário estourado.
We are running late, as I said before, behind schedule. And our next panel, one of the panelists, unfortunately, will not make here today on time, which is Christian Peroni from Microsoft. So maybe we could keep going with another 10 minutes, as our next panel will be one single speaker. Apple will not join us, but it will be present next year. Apple confirmed their participation for next year's editions. So in the next panel, so let me give a spoiler. 9 and 10 of February 2027, our next Safernet Day celebration in the same premises. So as I was saying, next panel will be shortened, and now we are going to use a few minutes for a Q&A. If you have questions online or here on site, please. We are not going to give you the microphone for open questions because we also like to answer questions from our remote participants. So send them in writing. We are not going to pass on the microphone.
E remoto não tem ninguém, tá bom? Então, como a carteira digital,
how can the digital wallet,
que terá os dados dos pais maiores de idade,
that will convey parents' information, could avoid that children and adolescents would access websites that are allowed just for older users? This is a question from Rita Maya from Social Knowledge Network. I didn't quite get the question, she says. Could you repeat? It's a bit complicated. I apologize for the translation because it was not very clear. if parents could avoid that children and adolescents would get into the websites through a wallet that belongs to parents. I think that's what it's been asked. The question had an introduction. We heard adolescents to produce the text. And many children and adolescents, they use cell phones, smartphones from their parents or any other adult users. They use the parents' devices. How can digital wallet help with that? Yeah, maybe Gary does not understand the setting. Let me explain you. In Brazil, out of 5 to 7 access in Brazil is done by shared devices. They use their parents' device.
YouTube and what else. So how this infrastructure can be used and how the wallets can be used to that purpose once you have the child use the parent's device as the main way to access those kind of contents.
Acho que tem primeiro que acho que é o mais simples e o mais óbvio, que é...
The most obvious and simplest question is, I don't know if you realized when Gary showed, every time that there is a request for you to share your credential, you have to confirm with your biometry once again. If the child got the parent's smartphone, they will ask for the parent's biometry, mother or father, to share that information. So in addition to use the parent's device, the user of the device has to agree with their biometry. I guess this is the best way to solve shared devices issues. For stolen phones, there are other solutions. You may remove remotely your credential. Despite it is in the device, you may remove it remotely. Even the Android has some safety features that will help in that sense. There is even one based on movements. If there is a rush, a hard movement with the cell phone, it blocks the screen. Is that already available in Brazil? Well, we have another question. Let's see it. Gov.br, which is the government app, is integrated at several systems. What is the possibility to have this double verification by Google that is also done by a Brazilian tool in addition? The Gov.br app, which is a Brazilian app from the government. That's a great question, and I cannot give you any spoilers. I'm sorry. But that's a great question. Gov.br is able to be a credential issuer, verified credentials. The idea is to create an ecosystem, a more robust ecosystem, so users will decide who will be their credentials providers. As Luisa said, that could be the bank, could be an NGO, can be a .br, Gov.br, can be Google. The credential issuers should be decentralized and allowing consumers to decide and choose their issuer. I want Google. Okay, no, I don't want Gov.br because I'm afraid of censorship. So look for your best provider. That is the idea. The idea is to decentralize this market, which is highly concentrated nowadays and does not allow people's control about their own information framework. That's exactly the power of international and global standards, which allows interoperability with many different solutions. And I have a question about interoperability, but we have some more questions here. But my question is, how do you see, what's your take on, there is a flow of around 15 million Brazilians which go abroad, they travel abroad, and foreigners who come to Brazil every single year. So this in-outward flow, Brazilians that go out and foreigners that come in, it amounts 15 million people annually. How can this ecosystem being interoperable with other countries? Gary, whenever he's in Brazil, he'll be able to use his wallet for Brazilian services and vice versa.
I think you're highlighting the opportunity of interoperability here, because if the Brazilian ecosystem adopts these open standards that are the same standards adopted by other countries, it means that somebody from Brazil can go through the airport security in the United States using that same digital credential. So on my way here, on my flight, the California driver's license that I showed you here, that's what I presented to the federal government as proof of identification when I went through the security in the airport in San Francisco. So if Brazil adopted the same standard and the federal government of the United States trusted that standard because they trust it from US credentials, they could also trust it for Brazilian credentials. The same credentials could work for in-person, for online, across all of these different use cases. And the same is true for opposite. My credential here, when I have a digital driver's license or a passport, for example, that could be used in Brazil for proof of age, or even for entering this building. Instead of having to give my sensitive information, I could have used that same credential entering here or with my hotel. And this is the opportunity of interoperability, because not only can you allow people to travel around online and in person and use their same credentials everywhere, but more users means more adoption, more issuers of credentials, more customers using those credentials, and more apps and websites and businesses accepting those credentials. It becomes a positive feedback loop, which then makes it safer and easier for everyone.
Perfeito.
Let me just add that Brazil has an agreement with Uruguay, and we are experiencing interoperability within the services, governmental services login. And today you may use your gov.br login to interact with services from Uruguayan government. This is an example of interoperability in the use of standards. And similarly, our digital ID documentation is highly standardized. It is within the standards. So instead of sending a photo of a document, which is highly used, to take a picture of a document is creating a fake document. And to issue by gov.br, it applies an additional safety and a possibility of interoperability that is much higher than the experience of taking a picture of your document, exactly due to the application of standards. In the future, our world will be much more, will have a much more interoperability in terms of frontiers.
Another interesting point, it opens the doors to a number of things that we've been saying. Driver's license with an international interoperable protocol, so the validation of the driver's license internationally, which would be much easier. Luciana tried to rent a car with the PDF of a copy of her driver's license. It didn't work. So you see, there are a number of possibilities if we adopt a universal protocol. It depends on agreements among governments, but this is something that would be one first step for facilitating the whole process. Brazil is a highly digitalized country. All our states, most documents are digital now and all under gov.br website. Maybe we are not really considering it and how important it is. And I have to leave because I have a flight to take. Well, thank you all very much for the invitation. It's always a pleasure to join you. Please count on me. Thank you very much, and I'm sorry if I have to leave early. Thank you very much for your participation.
Can I add one more? Can I add one more point on the standards? This is not just for digital credentials and age. The entire internet is built on open standards. The reason why somebody in Brazil can access a website that's hosted in the European Union is because the way that the computers, the way that the servers talk to each other is all open standards. And so I think we should see these digital credentials, their age credentials or their driver's license or national ID, it's just another evolution of how the internet is working. It's bringing more trust to solve these new problems around safety and digitization. But the idea of building, of having interoperability with open standards this is what the internet is built on. This is the foundation of this.
Sim, yeah, excellent. Eu, como circulo bastante, eu vejo isso na prática.
I see it in practice. The end of the year, I was in Peru, and when I arrived there, they accepted our national ID for getting into the country. You don't have to come up with your passport. Colombia, Argentina, so we can use our Brazilian ID, but they do not accept our driver's license. It can be our national ID, but not our driver's license. Interesting. And in Peru, when going through immigration, in addition to taking copy of all my documents, they collected my fingerprints, my 10 fingerprints, and they took copy of my documents, and I said, well, okay, I want to come in. I've already visited 70 different countries. I know some of them have more bureaucratic, other simpler process. In the US, I go in, they say nothing, just get my passport, check, and say, welcome, and that's it. In Peru, they wanted my 10 fingerprints. So maybe eventually, thanks to this agreement, even in Mercosur, we can start having a easier process for travelers, especially because of waiting lines. In Peru, it took so long that it would take 3 hours to get into the country, the immigration lines. In Portugal, for example, there were 9-hour waiting lines to go through immigration. So 10-hour flight, then 9-hour line to go through immigration. And we've seen in Brazil as well, very long waiting lines, difficult for elderly people, pregnant women, etc. Let me add something. The private sector, in my opinion, can develop faster. Or in other words, part of our work is to bring digital credentials into the wallet, but also engage developers of app and service providers to start using the API and really benefit from the ecosystem. And when interacting with different entities in the US, we've got a very good feedback of US companies that would like documents from Brazil to be part of the wallet. Regardless of the US government and all the political issues behind it, the private sector is willing to embrace that. I told Anna, the company wanted to rent a car to me, of course. They knew the Brazilian driver's license, how it worked. They're willing to do it. But it didn't work because it was not officially, let's say, credentialed. One last question, and then we'll close this panel. And it's a very important question, I have to say. Many of the solutions consider the responsibility of parents, but are parents really ready to educate their own families? Are families aware of how to better use the new solutions? I think it's a question concerning awareness, capacity building, education, right, of families. Anyone? Well, If I'm not mistaken, the next panel is about parental control, right? It's good. There are a number of parental control tools that can deal with that, and we've been interacting with the civil society and the government to disseminate further the existence of tools that would help with that. We understand this is a very important pillar of the discussion. It's no use have available tools when users are not aware of how to use them. I think it's a collective initiative. Google has a number of initiatives to disseminate about tools, but the more stakeholders, partners we have on board, the better. Very good for the next panel, right? Said that, I'm going to close this panel. Let me thank you once again, all panel members. I think we've met our objective, which is to take the next step into the discussion, something which is ongoing, and we are going to keep on doing in the afternoon as well, when we are going to have the largest panel. It's going to be a 2-hour panel with 8 speakers, plus the moderator, and it's going to talk about age verification solutions available in Brazil. We are going to have representatives from Robots, Discord, TUS Romani, Unico, DWAL, Serasa, and also 2 specialists on W3C from the web-based centers of NIC.br, managed by Wagner Genisi, who's here with us. I am sure it's going to be a must-watch. And all companies that said they wanted to be part of the panel, presenting their solutions, were invited. All of them that said, yes, I want to be part, have been invited to be here with us. In the afternoon, it will be a great showcase of solutions of age verification options, which are available or have been rolled out in Brazil. We are going to have a 10-minute break now, Natalia, and then we are going to be back with a very important panel whom you are going to introduce to us. Thank you, Ana Clara, Luisa, Garen. Great moderation, Tiago. Thank you.
Agradecer a participação de vocês também, que é
Thank you for your participation as well. I'm going to ask for a group picture. Now we are going to have a 10-minute break just for coffee, water, and we'll be back about this very important topic with Priscila Couto, with Google as well. Thank you very much. Thank you, Google's team.
E as saídas aqui pelas laterais atrás
do palco. We have the stairs here behind the stage, and I'll be back in 10 minutes. Thank you.
Bem-vindos de volta. Convidamos
Welcome back. Let me invite all of you to join us. I'd like to ask all of those online to join us as well. We've had a brief break, and now we are going to resume. We still have got a lot to discuss. It's the 18th edition of Safer Internet Day. It's been streamed online in NIC.br and Safer Internet Online. Let's use our hashtags to post about this event.
CID 2026 e Dia da Internet Segura. Vamos ficar todos
and
conectados.
Safer Internet Day. These are the hashtags.
E agora nós retornamos Com painel que tem como tema.
Now we're going to have a panel which is going to address parental supervision tools. This is something that has been mentioned before by all participants. Today in the morning, we talked a lot about that. I would like to invite Priscila Couto. She's the leader of reliability and safety for security, for Latin America, for Google.
Como já foi dito aqui anteriormente pelo Thiago, infelizmente,
as Thiago has announced, Christian Perrone unfortunately had some commitments and could not join us this morning. We have Isabella Ferro. She is a project analyst of Safernet Brasil. Welcome, Isa.
Isabella, que vai mediar esse painel.
Isabella is the moderator of the panel.
O microfone está desligado. Pronto, bom dia, vocês me escutam?
Good morning, can you all hear me? Great. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for being with us on site and online. This is a panel to get to know more about parental supervision or family supervision tools. We had also invited a Microsoft representative and an Apple representative, but it won't be possible to have them here this time, but I'm sure we are going to expand this dialogue in future opportunities. We have Priscila Couto with Google, and she's going to tell us more about the Family Link tool by Google. This is an opportunity to talk more about family supervision strategy to protect children and adolescents in the digital world. Priscila, you can go first. We're going to have a very informal talk here. I'm going to ask her some questions, and we hope it will be very fruitful to all of you. Priscila? Thanks, Isabella. Thanks, Safernet and NIC.br. One more edition of this event where we are talking about safer internet. It's a whole month of celebration to build awareness about such an important topic, making sure that we have safe, healthy, and fruitful experiences in the internet for everyone. I'm going to make a brief presentation about Family Link, which is our parental supervision tool, and also show you how this tool has been conceived. I'm going to share with you a timeline, and many people think mistakenly that the Family Link has just been created. Not quite. It was launched in 2017. We are celebrating 10 years of existence, and I would like to share with you all the functions of Family Link, talk about the timeline, and talk about parental control, parental supervision, and help parents and family members have a better journey, a healthy journey, and above all, something that is supported. Understanding that families have their own dynamic, the way they work, and we have to be knowledgeable of that. How was it created? We have 2.8 billion children every year all over the world, and children are using internet. According to a research for kids 0 to 8, 68% of the children already have a tablet. 4 years is the age that the child has a tablet, and 3 hours on use on average. What concerns parents about the use of internet by their kids and adolescents? We are talking about inappropriate content, about companies monitoring marketing and trying to guide that to children and adolescents. Some specific announcement. This is forbidden. Interaction with unknown people, strangers, which is something of concern. Also, screen time. We know children are no longer outside as my generation was. Children suffering bullying and low communication skills because they are too long in the screen. So what has been proposed by Google? The Family Link as a tool. It's an app that helps families monitor their children in the digital journey, teaching them how to get responsible, aware of the use, guided by parents and the guardians. This is what matters, you see. It's not simply allowing the child or the adolescent to have the smartphone and have access to internet freely. The journey has to be monitored by parents and guardians. It's as if offline we were teaching the child on how to go to school on their own, cross the street. Then we teach them how to cross a busy avenue, take buses. The same journal would be, this would be a metaphor, right, for the online journey. Little by little, the kids would get maturity and understand what are the risks and the opportunities presented by the digital world. How can we help families do that? These are the 4 key functions. So screen time, approval of apps, which is one of the most relevant things, to control the content of what's going to be watched, but also to ensure financial health of the families. I have no kids of my own, but I have nephews and nieces, and we know when we get just the bills coming to you through the credit card. In addition to content filters, and another interesting point, location, where the child and the adolescents are. I'm going to tell you more about that. But you see, Isabella, if that technology existed when I was a child in the beginning of the 90s, coming from a violent neighborhood in Rio, my family, my parents would have been rest assured that it would be better protected, something that they didn't have because it didn't exist at that time. And I lived in a low-income, very violent district of the city. Now, screen time. We are talking about types of use and limits. With Family Link, parents can set some specific rest times. You can determine, for example, if the child can uses the tablet or smartphone from 9 to 5, or if there are going to be some breaks, or during specific times of the day, only after school, for example, after having lunch, after, let's say, doing the homework, there will be a 2-hour breach or a 2-hour window to use it. Sometimes children and adolescents get excited and they do not want to do the homework or interact with anyone at home. So parents and responsible people can simply block use of the smartphone or tablet through the Family Link app. Children and adolescents are probably hating me and Google because I'm telling what the parents can do, but believe me, this is for their own good. It's also possible to limit the time and limit and block specific apps. With Family Link, you know exactly what are the apps that the child has in tablet or smartphone and determine which of them can be used. You can moderate apps during the week, for example, just specific apps related to school, and then over the weekend, the child can, for example, use electronic games or others. Also, approval of apps, something very relevant. We are talking about settings for approval and also parental approval of apps and remote approval through the parent's mobile phone. This is the main catch, so that nobody gets a unknown access, right, to that. You can get information whenever the child tries to purchase or download a specific app. If it's a purchase, it won't be possible to do it directly if you have Family Link. You are going to get a note saying whether you approve the purchase or not. Likewise, if you are just downloading an app, you are going to get a request saying, do you approve the child to download that specific app? By doing that, you can have full oversight of what the child or the adolescent is trying to consume. Content filters in Google products, very relevant feature. Family Link can have full control of different Google services, and there are plenty of them. I think it's also impossible to list them all, and there are some we don't even know belong to Google, such as Waze and others. So you can filter content of all Google filters, such as Chrome's control, which is our internet browser, app filter in Google Play, beyond moderation and authorizing download, and also YouTube and YouTube Kids setup. Another interesting features, and I think this one is extremely relevant because it's very reassuring for parents, which is to know exactly where the child or an adolescent is. You always have real-time location of the device, a tablet or a smartphone. You can also set up warnings of arrival and leaving places. So if the child gets home, for example, you get a warning. And then you take a deep breath and said, good, the child's home from school or from friend's home. Or you can use it to warn the child to come home, for example, because the app will then sound an alarm asking the kid to come back home, for example. And let's say the child is busy, not paying attention. So by having an alarm sound, the child will know that it's time to come back home.
Next, I'm going to talk about the origin and the evolution of Family Link. I gave you a quick spoil in the beginning of my talk by saying that that was released in 2017. The problem which we faced at the time, and by saying to face, was not an issue, Google's issue. In fact, we are all the time discussing with experts, with the academies, civil society, and since 2015, we would hear that children cannot create their own account at Google, but yet we knew that many parents and responsibles, they would create their accounts saying that they were older than 18, which it's a damage, because we are talking about an adult that is in face of a screen when actually is a child or an adolescent, but the company does not know. And of course, they will trigger a content, take into account they are over 18. And by hearing the different actors of the society, we decided to develop a Google's account for children control with parental control as well. So we hear their comments since 2015. We had 2 years of development where we counted on a multidisciplinary team. Most of them, they are Brazilian. That is a global product, but with Brazilian DNA, which we have to be so proud of it. We hardly see this type of situation, but I feel so glad to say that there is Brazilian DNA.
Aquela terra tão boa, com gente maravilhosa, com comida
so that started to be developed in the state of Minas Gerais in Brazil, which helped for the family link. Therefore, this is a multidisciplinary team which deals with the user's experience, product creations, interface of designs, experiences with software development, and legal consultation. Family Link is not an app just developed by engineers or simply thought by a specific sector within Google. Not at all. That is a global multidisciplinary team made mainly by Brazilians who helped to build up this app after 2 years of development, experience, research, and finally in 2017 that became a reality. The Family Link release took place back in 2017 with parental control to children younger than 18 in Android mobile devices, which at that time included some resting time, limited of screen, site share, and allowance in addition to content filters at Google Play, Chrome, and Google Search. After its release, we started to improve the link, and we are constantly improving, developing, and updating the app, always hearing the needs of the society, government, and all sectors which discuss children and adolescents' safety in the web. So after 2017, we see an expansion and improvement, surveillance of Chromebooks, activation of surveillance at Google's account, parental control through Family Link in the Android setup, limited screen time in addition to extra screen. As of 2021 to 2024, we modernize and flexibilize some of our tools where the apps, they become more modern. We have localization alerts, infantile child profiles with parental control, supervision for intelligent watches, in addition to filters for the YouTube content. And as of last year, we had our latest improvements and developments. And last year, we see improvement after hearing our users. We try to turn the family link more friendly. Last year, our main focus was to simplify its use. And within the simplification, we had the creation of the school time, where students they may concentrate in their study. With the school time, we know that in Brazil, cell phones, they are prohibited to be used at schools. And now parents, they may establish that during the school time, cell phones will not work at all. It will be off. And if required, to take into account the evolutions that we got due to the pandemic, you can make available apps that be used by those adolescents at school time. With that, you allow granularity, allowing to establish if an application X to a history class that will be just available at the days and time of the history class, as well as any other apps that they may need to use during the school time. School time also allows to establish what are the calls and the messages that this kid may get. In addition to the site location, you may establish that during the school time, the child will also get messages from their parents, relatives, or those of which you believe are the best people. But you are able to do it, to establish, as well as manage contact, which will allow that the family will determine and set up who are those that will be able to talk to this child or adolescent. And that will be available to Google Messages in cell phones or the operational system Android 14 Plus and Samsung Galaxy or watches to children. In addition, last year we also had Gemini parental controls, which are quite relevant as artificial intelligence became a part of our lives. Today, through Family Link, we may have such a control of Gemini by their children and adolescents. And moreover, we have the sensitive content alert, which is very, very important, and it's present for those who are over age 18. That avoids to reach really striking images. And by that I mean, you might be looking for an emergency issue, like you have an arm fracture. And if you search on Google, and if you don't have the sensitive content alert and an active filter, and you have a full age, you are going to have an open arm fracture, which is not something nice or pleasant to see. Not only is it important to have that in the family link, but I always incentivize adults to have that, especially if you don't want to see images like that. So we have that tool also available for adults. And finally, I would motivate all of you who have children or adolescents at home to download the app, which is available at iOS and Android stores. And I cannot stress enough that parents and responsible will be close to their kids and adolescents in this digital journey. It's a double-way pathway, two-way pathway, I mean. Parents, they also have their share of responsibility in the digital education and within this process of maturity in the use of internet by their kids and adolescents. Thank you, Priscila. Big round of applause. Well, so much relevant information that you have addressed in your talk. And how Google says that tool for a while, always trying to improve it and to become more accessible and to families. I work in Safernet education, and I am constantly in contact with educators, teachers, adolescents, families. And that represents a challenge, how to offer tools like that, how to use them. Many families, they have a low digital literacy, and that will interfere as how that surveillance will be done and the protection ensured or not. So we have to hear more about the initiatives to allow that safety. At Safernet, we are so proud of this partnership which has been constructed with Google throughout the years. I would like to reinforce that we have a project or initiative since last year, which is called Connected Families, where in partnership with Google, we try to translate the concepts, to explain to educators and to family members how the tools work. Always aligned to a strategy of family surveillance from a broader perspective. As you said, the dialogue with the child, which is being introduced to technology, may trigger a conflict within family. I hear parents saying about that. Therefore, we reinforce the importance to assess progressive autonomy of children and adolescents, to set a dialogue from the beginning, to understand what is the proper time for a device use, where you will or will not allow access in a balanced way from the digital universe. If you, Priscila, could elaborate a little bit more about some aspects, such as within this partnership of Connected Families, of which I am so proud of being a coordinator, and we have also the Safernet experts, Juliana and Bianca, who helped us to translate those concepts to families and educators. Many families keep asking how to offer a better moderation in the use of YouTube. YouTube is children are very keen on YouTube, and how can the family link better address the possibility of parents to be moderators of the content accessed by children and adolescents, especially YouTube Shorts. After the family link download is made, it's important to create an account of your kid, identify the real age of the kids, as we set different layers in accordance to the age, and the lower the age, the higher will be the layers, so we have more protection walls as younger that child is. Second, as to YouTube, always to use YouTube Kids, because that will allow a number of layer protections to help that family to use that product in its best way, adding content of quality to their kids. And by that, I mean, anytime we use YouTube Kids, we have today partnerships with academics and experts throughout the world, in addition to the quality principles that the YouTube created, but talking in partnership with all the experts, which will guarantee that the content at YouTube Kids is appropriated to each age range. And by family link and to moderate content at YouTube, we have first, as to short, you may set a time that a child or an adolescent may watch YouTube Shorts, and you can do that via family link. In addition, talking about general content of YouTube Kids, we may also have control not only of the channels, where you are able to establish which channels the child may watch, with an additional granularity, where you are able to establish within the channels which episodes may be watched by this child or adolescent. To guarantee that this is a two-way street, and parents, they should be side by side with their kids in that journey. You may watch it if you understand is appropriated, fine. You say, I believe this channel is okay to my child, but I believe that you may watch this and that episode. And if you understand that as time goes by, your child is becoming more mature and is entitled to watch other episodes in that channel, you may turn them available. So we give tools to families, so them naturally talking to their children, where they will tell them the needs of being followed. And that will be a content not just filtered by us, but by their parents as well. Thank you so much. You have also raised the alert for sensitive content, and one of the alerts that we have in this conversation with families and educators is the use of a Safer Search, which is a Google tool which works as a filter as well. Could you please elaborate a little bit more about Safer Search? Safer Search is a tool that even adults, they have to turn them available. Safer Search in searches such as an injury of a fracture, if you have the Safer Search active for adults or in the family link for children and adolescents, you will prevent images like that from being seen. But how are you going to prevent that? I mean, images will be shown, but they'll be blurred, and then it will be up to you. I'm not talking about children now. In the family link, there is no way those images will be seen. But if you, as an adult, will have that available, you will get a message, you're going to get an information, sensitive image, and then it's up to you to see it or not. Safer Search is developed to avoid that children and adolescents and adults will, not have access to images that may shock them. And if we are here talking about medicine, hospital, and things like that, they may be educative messages, but many people may, get too sensitive about that. So those tools were created for that meaning, for users to decide if they want to see or not images like that, sensitive images. The content is being available doesn't mean that is illegal, but is not appropriated to the age range of that child. So, Priscila, we are concluding this session. Could you please proceed to your final remarks so we can, break for lunch? Once again, thank you so much to the organizers, event organizers. It's wonderful to see that this event keeps on growing and it's celebrating 20 years, and that many other people, even from Safernet, will grow even more. And we as an industry will add more knowledge, talking about the initiatives and also searching for a dialogue with all actors that are relevant in the society, so we may improve whatever we have in place. And please look after your children, look after your adolescents. This is a jointly work. We have to talk. We have to respect the maturity of children and adolescents to have conversation, to create citizens and to know exactly how they may run off risks, they may avoid the problems, and if they are able to extract the best from the web. And moreover, to be aware that they may fight for whatever the worst we may find in the internet. Active hearing is key to guarantee a relationship which is a good health relationship where together you may trust those minors to bring to you all their problems, and above all that you are going to have the necessary tools to help them in this digital journey. Thank you. Thank you, Priscila, so much for your participation. Let me thank you once again and Google for the partnership. And now you are all invited to follow Safernet, where we disclose all that information. We're going to have more this year. So family members and anyone who might be interested, follow us. In the afternoon session, we are going to go on with the discussion about age verification. We are going to have a number of interesting panels with expert panelists. So hope to see you all after lunch. Big round of applause to the two speakers. And please, let's take a picture of this panel. As being a mother, I am very careful to all information. I love Family Link because there are many mothers, especially from the suburbs, who don't have access to that. They don't have knowledge, information, which is not accessible to everyone. And we are going to talk about solutions of age verification available in Brazil, but I guess you might be hungry by now, so let's stop for lunch and then let's be back for this amazing panel that we are going to have after, with 8 experts in 2 different panels. And I hope to see you all back at 2 o'clock sharp. Enjoy lunch. Thank you and see you soon.